Namaste, good evening. On behalf of SagePresage Consulting and EVG, I welcome you all to our webinar, An Emerging Era of Power Women for Resilience, Innovation, and Future of Risk. My name is Ila Longani, and I'm the founder CEO for SagePresage Consulting. This is our fourth annual webinar marking International Women's Day. Every year, we bring together voices from across the world to discuss and deliberate on creating environment and ecosystem for equal opportunity. This year, we've collaborated with EBG to bring forth this event to you. Today, we are joined in by leaders and speakers from 5 different countries to discuss on how organizations can build resilience and adapt to emerging risks. We'll also exploring another crucial aspect today, which is around women's safety at workplace and understand how organizations can create safe, empowering work environment. So let's look at the agenda for today. This year's theme is resilience, innovation, and future of risk. We'll initiate with a brief presentation on today's theme and share how SagePresage has been making a difference in these domains. We'll then have some opening remarks from EBG's side, and then we'll initiate the panel discussion on building future-proof organizations with women at the forefront, followed by a fire chat with 2 dynamic ladies on women's safety at workplace, policies, protection, and progress. So let's get started. Our vision is to make a difference in the domain of risk management using the right blend of human intelligence and technology, enabling safe, secure, resilient, and compliant workplaces. We stand by our founding pillars: respect, integrity, balance, as well as collaboration and partnership. We are holistic risk management advisors, helping organizations identify and assess risks and provide strategies to mitigate those risks, thereby maximizing growth and opportunities for businesses. We strongly work in the area of risk. In fact, many diverse areas of risk, I would say, from corporate safety and security to technology risks like cybersecurity, integrity risk domains like ethics, compliance, as well as fraud risk management, including investigative work, due diligence, digital forensics, to more complex areas of crisis response and management, business continuity, and also providing trainings in some of these domains. If we look at the emerging risk radar, the major emerging risks that we see from both impact and probability perspective, I would say, are related to technology, like cyber risks, cybersecurity, data privacy, data ethics, as well as AI. We've seen how DeepSeek have created disruption recently. Apart from that, geopolitical risks are another important area that is constantly evolving and impacting operations and business continuity for organizations. Supply chain, critical infrastructure, legal and regulatory uncertainty, to areas like health and safety, mental health, emerging infectious diseases are another set of risks that are hampering the organizations in many different ways. These are just some of the top risks in a specific domain, which is a more pertinent one, which is insurance, but the story is no different across sectors. Gender gap is no surprise, and as we move up the ladder, it is even more stark across sectors, except for a few, I would say, like academic, teaching, as well as HR. Even in emerging tech areas like AI, deep learning, machine learning, we see this gap across roles and across countries. But what is more important to understand is what impact does it have, especially from emerging technology standpoint and where it is taking us really. So this bias is now coming on to the generative AI output results as well. And here's an example of it, and on how recruitment bias is visible within the output. So GPT ranked equally qualified resumes unequally for this particular job tested, which is for HR specialist. And if you look at it, it favored women more, in this case, because traditionally, as you understand that, you'll find more women in HR specialist kind of a role. So this all comes from the input data that is there, right? And this is impacting decisions across sectors. So whether you look at healthcare, education, marketing, law enforcement, finance. You will find an example everywhere for that matter. So, for example, as simple as a thing like, if the loan has to be sanctioned or denied to somebody, AI bias is a huge concern in the current times, and that is why I have always advocated that in order to make a equitable environment for all, the fourth industrial revolution need to be holistic. Unless it is holistic, we can't have equality in place. So let's look at some of the work that SagePresage has been doing in emerging risk and technology solutions area. Cybersecurity is one of the key areas that we work in. Some of the dynamic solutions around cyber due diligence, cyber investigations, cyber crisis simulation. With evolving risk landscape, we are working with organizations on cybersecurity framework creation, and then guiding the organization on following the best practices apart from just being compliant. Within the fraud risk domain, we provide forensics, e-discovery services, and even while conducting investigations, we are using a lot of technology tools, which is making the whole investigations process more fast and foolproof. We're also using behavioral analytical tools, to provide insights into the behavior patterns of the individuals and subjects. Even from the due diligence and investigations perspective, there are a number of open source intelligence tools which are now available, which is providing much more comprehensive information much faster. Of course, there are compliance tools also now available, which are helping organizations with more stronger, more robust compliances. AI is, of course, relevant for one and all in today's scenario. So AI chatbot, AI software and application development, AI-enabled trainings, Gen AI trainings. I think learning and development itself is constantly evolving in current times. So we are providing a lot of those learning and development solutions around cyber crisis simulation, leadership trainings around crisis management workshops and crisis communication workshops, forensics, cybersecurity, and a number of AI-enabled phishing simulations as well. So yeah, that's how the landscape is changing. Now moving on to another important segment of what we are covering today, which is women's safety at workplace. And I think it's one of the more critical areas, a very basic necessity for a woman to thrive and excel in any of their pursuits, that there should be safety in place. So here are just some of the concerns that we've noticed, which has come out from research that women have been concerned about. So whether the environment in the workplace is secure, what are the policies within the organization, what is the redressal mechanism within the organization, who can they reach out to, how is the office security, how is the security or safety taken care of while they're traveling for work, even in odd hours, or they're traveling outstation for business. So these are just some of the concerns that women have around security. And there are a number of provisions also which are available. So from legal provisions which the organizations must comply with, which includes constitutional provisions, welfare provisions under Factories Act, Maternity Benefit Act. There's safety provision like POSH Act, and more recently, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita addressing violence against women at workplace. Provisions related to wages as well as working conditions are also in place, but that's just the compliance bit for organizations. I think what is more important for organizations is not just to comply with these provisions, but to go above and beyond and create an environment of zero tolerance, allowing the women to speak up, having a proper grievance redressal mechanism, setting the precedent for them, training not just the workforce, but the extended workforce also on the sensitive areas of safety and security. I think it's at the end of the day about building a safety culture within the organization more than anything. Even at SagePresage, we are working strongly in the area of women's safety. We provide a number of training solutions around self-defense, POSH Act compliance, cybersecurity for women, travel security for women, mental health and gender sensitization. We're also helping organizations create policies and processes to ensure not only compliance, but also advise on best practices. Essentially, it's about creating gender neutral environment and also cover various aspects of vulnerabilities for women. We are also helping organizations conduct unbiased investigations in the most sensitive and confidential manner, providing evidences-based outcomes for them. Also, while hiring the resources, we advise them to conduct due diligence from the perspective that is there a case of harassment in the past, which is recorded, which goes unrecorded for this person. How is the code of conduct of this person? Some of these things which come out of the discrete inquiries, really, and also to understand the cultural fitment, which is equally important. Essentially, it's only about creating a strong ethics and compliance framework for the organizations. I think we are truly committed to this cause because I think it's really critical for us to have women's safety at workplace and beyond. Here's a testimony, I think, of how the work we have done so far and how it has been taken, what participants have learned through our trainings. I think it really matters to us a lot. And also, we are proud to announce that we are now empaneled with Ministry of Child and Women Development for POSH Act compliance trainings. That's a huge thing for us, and we are really excited about it. It's a thing of pride. So essentially, it's all about creating safe, secure, healthy environment so that every individual within the organization grow and thrive and make the most of their potential, really. And of course, to dive deep into today's theme, we'll have our next segment coming up, which is the panel discussion on building future-proof organizations, women at the forefront. But before we do that, I'll just move on to Mr. Sidhu from EBG for his opening remarks, and a special word of thanks for EBG for collaborating with us and believing in us, in our cause, really. Over to you, Mr. Sidhu.
Thank you, Ira. Can I be heard clearly?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome from all my colleagues at EBG. In the wake of the special occasion of International Women's Day, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you and to this, what I think will be a very exciting webinar, an emerging era of power, women, resilience, innovation, and the future of risk, which EBG is delighted that they are collaborating with SagePresage Consulting on. SagePresage is a valued member and has collaborated with us last year. They're experts in delivering robust, secure, and compliance-oriented screening services, aiding businesses make the right decisions. See, business inherently has risk. You cannot have a business without risk. The key is how does management put into place measures in good time which can mitigate, and if despite mitigation there is still a problem, manage the risks that emerge and manage them effectively. We are delighted in EBG that although this is the beginning of the year, this is our 4th event, and if we continue like this, we hope to do at least 16 to 18 events in 2025, which will keep up our previous year's record. And we look forward to collaborating again with Ila, you and your team. We have an exceptional panel of women industry leaders and experts who will share in due course their insights on building resilient organizations, navigating emerging risks, and fostering safe and inclusive workplaces. I am personally I believe in this subject. I have in my different avatars over the many years in the corporate world dealt effectively with inherent risks that reside in businesses and continue to do that. Sage, I don't know how you got your name, Ila, SagePresage, but sages are known for their great wisdom, as they say. I mean, sage comes from the Latin sapere, which is, you have the ability, sapere is to be wise, and not just wise, but possess the ability to predict the future. I hope you can do that. It is not an easy task, and I wish you all the best in that. A very special welcome to all our esteemed members. For a number of them are on the call. Key stakeholders and participants for joining us today. Your presence will add immense value to this conversation. I encourage all of you to actively engage, ask questions, actively engage. To borrow a phrase from Shakespeare, be bloody bold and resolute. Maybe it's not the right phrase, but be as candid as possible. And that will lend itself to a more exciting and useful conversation as we go ahead. So without further delay, I will now hand over to Ila to introduce our August speakers, and let's begin the session. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sidhu. And SagePresage is actually, it means advisors of risks. You're right. It's advisors, Sage, and Presage is any omen or red flag really of something bad happening. So that's where the red flag comes from. So advisors of risk, that's who we are.
So I was not wrong. Okay.
Yes, you have a lot of wisdom, I know. So, okay, thank you for that, Mr. Sidhu. And we'll now move on to Farah, who's been waiting for us. She'll be moderating the panel discussion. And Farah joins us from UK. She's currently in Africa, and she brings a wealth of knowledge, and experience with her from risk and resilience domain. She is kind of having an extensive experience in remote site operations in Africa, Middle East, all the difficult, complex geographies and hostile environments, I would say. She's the MD of FFA Security. She advises governments on violence against women and girls, and she works across different sectors to integrate community-led approaches into risk frameworks. Welcome, Farah. Please carry on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ayla, and as well to your company, SagePresage, for organizing as well this important discussion today. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining from. We are a truly international group today. Our panel discussion is Building the Future-Proof Organization, Women at the Forefront. Just a reminder, in case you've joined this conversation before Ila attended, to our webinar housekeeping items. If you're not on this panel, if you could kindly ensure that you are on mute, just so as not to disrupt the speakers, that would be very much appreciated. Questions will be allowed at the end. Ila introduced me, but I'm Farah Beniz. I'm usually based in London and the Managing Director of FFA Security Group. I'm going to be your moderator for the next 30 minutes as we explore how women leaders across sectors are driving innovation, resilience, and inclusive change in a complex and ever-evolving risk landscape. I'm incredibly thrilled to have a very exceptional panel of experts joining us from across the globe, each an absolute trailblazer in her field. To briefly introduce our speakers, first up we have Victoria van Roosmalen. I hope I've not butchered that. She is a CISO and Chief Privacy Officer at Custo in the Netherlands and an expert in cybersecurity, privacy, and data protection. We have Latika Vats, who is the Director of Regulatory Affairs and Quality Assurance at Medtronic in India, and she is bringing decades of leadership in healthcare compliance and biotechnology. We then have Sarah Silva, who is the Sales Director at IDEMIA, which is public security in Canada, working at the forefront of innovation in public safety and security solutions. We also have Monica Ahuja, who is the Director of Global Business Development at TMF Group, India, specializing in global expansion strategy and cross-border advisory services. And finally, and last but not least, we have Dora Chowdhury, who is the Country Director of HEKS and EPER in Bangladesh, a development professional focused on strategic leadership and humanitarian operations. So I want to dive straight into our discussion. Each speaker is going to have a couple of minutes to answer their respective questions. And as I said, we'll have time for questions at the end. Victoria, let's start with you. So businesses today face an increasingly complex risk landscape, cybersecurity threats, regulatory changes, geopolitical pressures. What emerging risks do organizations need to prepare for, and how do evolving frameworks contribute to building resilience?
Well, I think Ilya already gave a wonderful preface of what to expect when it comes to emerging risks. So I'll just, pick up the most important ones. Well, undeniably, AI-powered threats. I mean, we see it everywhere, right? Just popping up just as consumers, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, all these kind of tools popping up. So, these things, although, AI brings many, many wonderful opportunities, there are always two sides to the coin. So in that sense, AI-powered threats, think of automated phishing, deepfake social engineering, spreading of false information, hallucinations, it's how they called it, loss of intellectual property. People, enter the documents, enter the code or whatsoever for AI to assist in that. So there are various threats that can emerge with AI, despite being a wonderful, innovative, development. Things like quantum computing risks, more powerful computers, more AI, but also, they can also be misused to break traditional encryption, which we all heavily depend on. And then, you can think of cyber physical attacks, like attacks in critical infrastructure. Can we even handle, just even as consumers, like a 72-hour power outage? Do we have cash at home if, our bank becomes accessible and thus we have no access to our funds? So these are all things that, we have to consider, not only for us as a business, but also how it can further impact us as consumers, as citizens. And well, Ilya already also mentioned the traditional supply chain vulnerabilities. It remains a critical consider each other to create success and, have a part of society. So that remains important to keep an eye on that, and how do we manage that, and how do we position ourselves? So when it comes to, the evolving security and regulatory frameworks, like how they contribute, the development of AI legislation, data protection, cybersecurity legislation, frameworks like just the traditional ISO framework, zero trust architecture, they're wonderful. They help businesses kind of to, kick them on their butt to get things done. But they're no use if we do not take it seriously. We need to have the right people who understand that it's basically like a safety warning that we see on the passengers in a side mirror, like of cars and trucks. Objects in the mirror are like closer than they appear. Well, the same goes for threats and risks. Also, those are closer than they appear.
Thank you. It's interesting how cybersecurity now goes beyond IT, and it's more of a board level risk now. And hearing how organizations are adapting is really critical. You also made a particularly timely point, which is regulatory frameworks can feel burdensome, but when aligned with strategy, they actually become a source of resilience. For your next question, I'm interested to hear what you think. So women leaders bring unique perspectives to security. How is women's leadership in cybersecurity and privacy helping shape more holistic and inclusive security frameworks? And I'd be interested to know what shifts you've observed due to diverse leadership.
Oh, in general, I don't like to generalize, but, we as women, we often, we emphasize more collaboration across, business units. We advocate for responsible AI, ethical data governance, privacy first, and in general, diversity, diverse teams. And maybe it's our manly instincts, but, we are built differently physically. We have different challenges. We experience things differently. We think differently. And it's not to downplay men or other genders. It's not a gender discussion at all. It is, that we need to have people who can take on different roles and bring different, fresh perspectives so that we can have a strategic and resilient advantage. So when it comes to key changes, I must say it's very hard to really pinpoint what have we really seen. I know there are more diverse hiring practices. People do take this into account. But it's still hard to see what are the real key changes. Yes, we do focus on hiring people, but are we actually giving them the space to grow and be part of the discussion? For me, that's still a tricky question to answer, because if you look at research and also what we've seen earlier in the presentation, it's still not very present. So I think we still need to push harder for advocacy for women also in leadership positions, making them part of the discussion. And whenever we are empowered to do that and bring more women to the table, we should encourage that and make the seat available.
I love what you said about embracing differences and also about the holistic frameworks. I think when women are at the table, the lens often shifts to include kind of both the technical and human aspects, but also whether we're giving people the opportunities to be part of discussions. And that's why ones like this are so important. And it really shows how diverse leadership creates space for far more adaptive and responsive systems. Thank you so much for your insights, Victoria. Latika, coming to you. I can't see her. She's not on my screen.
Oh, is it? Like, my video is open.
Hello, Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hello.
We have you. So in healthcare, regulation and innovation often collide. What are the biggest compliance challenges in your sector, and how can organizations proactively adapt their risk strategies to remain resilient?
Yeah, thank you, Farah, for the question. And I'm privileged to be a part of this panel. Thanks to EBG as well as SagePresage for sponsoring such a great, like, Power Women 4.0. Cannot be a better relevant time than this. And I represent Medtronic, which is largest health technology company. So we used to have pacemakers for the cardiac rhythm management, and it used to be of the size of refrigerator. And as you said, advanced technology, now it is of the capsule size without leads. So you can understand that, how compact it has become, at the same time, how complex it has become to manage the cyber threats. At the same time, the AI, because we use it every time, and Victoria as well as Ila also pointed out. So while we use AI, of course, it is beneficial. We should do that. However, we should abide by the regulations of AI as well. So that is most important for me as a regulatory person and for all of us. It is important for the general public, but most important for the patients, because if every technology of yours impacting the life, then of course it takes the prime importance. Now, the complexity of regulations, if you see HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulations. So I think it requires for a person, and more so for the patient, to prevent the unauthorized access of the private data or the patient's data. And I think the most important thing as a strategy is going to be that, you should have a mission and vision in the organization, what will be followed for the safety. Tone at the top is important, and all the leaders here will echo with me that if, at the top, you think that this is important, this is critical to be compliant, abide by regulations, then it flows down. And at the same time, I think sometimes I feel that having the training, regular training and transparent communication is also important, because sometimes people have to raise voice and they want to know that, how much you have a capacity to hear, how approachable the management is. And as well as I would say that, the continuous risk assessment, because risk has a habit that it's not always same. They also adapt, they mutate, and they come in a bigger shape tomorrow. So if you do a continuous risk management and assessment, that is going to be important. Thank you.
Thank you. And an incredibly important reminder from you that compliance isn't just a checkbox. It's about long-term patient safety and public trust. And a great point on proactive strategy as well, that reactive risk management just isn't sustainable in a space moving as fast as healthcare. But the healthcare sector demands high regulatory integrity. How do women leaders offer a distinct approach to risk and compliance in this space?
There are two studies which I'm going to leave audience with. One is the Business Economics Management publication in ResearchGate in July 2024. Another one is International Journal of Social Science and Human Research, May 2023. And I think it's about equity. So women definitely do not have something different on the table. It's about having them on the table and foster belonging, embracing diversity. There are leadership styles, although if you read through these studies, which right now, if we survey women, they adapt, and women are more collaborative, they are transformational, while men are transactional. So we can utilize both styles. There is nothing wrong or right, but we can utilize both styles in different situations. And we should ideally, because one one approach doesn't fit the bill, all right? And while I talk about what could be important for women to be in workforce, for specifically talking about India, like we have 1/3 women out of eligible women who are in workforce right now. So it's important that we see the policies are adaptable to them. We also prevent and find out ways against discrimination. We hear voice whenever it is important, even if it is at the lowest decibel, because later on when it increases, it will be out of control. Harassment, of course, because we should have policies, at the same time awareness and trainings to follow through. That is going to be very, very important, I think. Also, I think managing conflict, because as a leader, it is important that you are aware of your surroundings. And if you see, so don't shy away from addressing that, hear it. And I think that is going to help us as a women leader. And most last point, I would, if I have to say, women to women mentorship, even reverse mentorship sometimes is so important, because if someone who has already dealt with it will be a better mentor, and probably they are helping you to navigate the challenges which you are facing right now. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you. And I completely agree with you on mentorship. You also shared some really interesting research. So perhaps you could share some links in the chat after you're done, in case people might want to look into that more. I know I do. You also highlighted how both empathy and rigor can kind of coexist in leadership. And I really enjoyed that out of what you said. I think often women leaders bring a systems thinking approach that really helps organizations look ahead. And it's great hearing how leadership diversity can help bridge regulatory compliance, but with on-the-ground realities. Sarah's, I have you up next, but I can't see you on my screen either.
I'm here on screen. Hopefully everyone can see me.
I see you now. Thank you. You work at the intersection of tech and public safety. How are security technologies evolving to meet emerging threats, and what innovations should organizations invest in today?
Okay, well, good morning from where I am. First of all, I'm privileged to be part of this panel because as I am listening to everyone, we're not only now talking about women diversity, but I'm able to get a perspective of cultural diversity and listening to the challenges and the highlights of every culture. It's pretty amazing. So thank you for the opportunity, Sage, for this morning. All right. So regarding the question, I think I would like to break down this question in 3 different parts, because when we talk about how the technology and security solutions are evolving, I usually say they are growing and emerging together, both the threats, both the risks, and also the security solutions. I don't know if you're familiar with the technical terms of red team and blue team, but they are used for cybersecurity pen testing. And I always say every day we have red team and blue team professionals entering the market. So it's up to us to address how we can address. So it's not news for anyone here that new threats, technologies, societal shifts are emerging. So technology and security solutions also have to address these emerging risks. So, some of the trendy words today in technology are AI, right? AI, machine learning. When I say trendy, it's because we should very carefully understand what they mean and what they can do for public safety. We should understand that they're not simply marketing words. We should concentrate on the cybersecurity. We need to be able to predict, detect, and mitigate threats to public security. And also machine learning tools. When we talk about machine learning tools, we're not just talking about internet search, for example, ChatGPT or anything like that. There are several learning tools or machine learning tools in the security. I know some of the examples are like gun detection, facial recognition, biometric readers. And when I say about breaking down this question, what innovations should organizations consider investing in? Again, when I concentrate on the public safety and in the security where I am deeply involved, automated AI and machine learning tools, like again, intelligent video management systems, biometric access control, cybersecurity enhancements, not just for the search engine per se, but networking, infrastructure, frameworks. And for anyone here, again, nothing is new, human behavior. Still today, after so much training, phishing and social engineering are by far the biggest root cause of hacking and cyber attacks. So companies need to constantly monitor, train, and repeat best practices for employees and stakeholders, right? Anyone outside of the organization. And again, what are some of the emerging technologies in security and access control specifically? Of course, right now, I'll have to, not much promotion, but to highlight my company here. It's in constantly improving and enhanced access control to address evolving threats, fraud, biometric authentication access control probably is the top as the most secure way to protect national security frameworks. When we use biometrics is you have to prove who you are, know what you have. So addressing false identity, potential threats, but again, not only on the biometric side, but then when you combine this with multi-factor authentication, now you leverage biometric templates and for the physical access control, and you enter now into the digital and identity management, like a unified access platform. And again, if we are to extend this answer, now biometric multi-factor authentication, now you add integrations like intrusion, smart video management systems, behavioral analytics, and then you assure resilience for national security frameworks and compliance. I know I broke down in 3, but I think it's a better way to explain.
No, that was a great explanation and incredibly fascinating. I think it's it's overdue that we're seeing more of a convergence happening between physical and digital security. And it's interesting how public safety sits right at the heart of that, right?
Absolutely.
And emerging tech like biometrics and AI is changing everything. It's exciting, but it also raises lots of new questions about risk for us to
exciting
be thinking
and
about.
scary, isn't it?
Tell me, with your experience in public security, how do you feel diverse leadership teams influence the development of inclusive and effective security solutions?
See, I always say any diverse background. I know we're focusing here on the women. We are pretty good at multitasking and having different perspectives, but every time there's a broader range of perspectives, I always say organizations will be more efficient and more effective. In the case of specifically designing security solutions, a diverse leadership or a diverse group will bring a variety of perspectives, which also leads to a more comprehensive problem solving. One individual, one group, one race, one culture might unseen some threats. So people from different backgrounds, again, gender, race, culture, professional experience, are more likely to approach security challenges with a variety of solutions. Like I said, a diverse group may bring to the table unseen risks, whereas one single group might have missed. So teams that are diverse in their composition tend to be more innovative and creative. You do a brainstorming, not to mention able to adapt to emergent threats. A threat in one region or one background, one professional experience might not be the same as the other. So overall, for the organization, and with the aim of improving and making a resilient security system design, those individuals will strengthen the culture, because not only are they designing the security solution, but they will feel a sense of ownership and bring a diversity, a sensitivity to the national security. That's me.
Thank you. And I agree, diverse groups with a variety of backgrounds just bring so much to the table. And your insights really speak to how inclusive leadership can shape tech that serves everyone, right? Especially in public safety, where lived experience really matters.
Absolutely.
And it's a great reminder that security solutions really need to be human-centered to really be truly effective.
Absolutely.
Monica, thank you so much, Ceres.
You're welcome.
Monica,
Yes, hope you can see me.
I can now, yes. I think there's like a little bit of a delay for when it comes up. Thank you so much for joining us. Advisory firms operate across sectors, very often spotting trends early. How can firms like yours help clients future-proof their strategies and also remain agile in today's very turbulent market?
Yeah, thank you, Farah. First of all, thank you, Sage, and thank you, EBG, for having me. So to answer your question, firms like mine, advisory firms, we play a very crucial role in helping organizations across various sectors. We help them navigate the uncertainties more effectively with the good and inclusive policies. Like my colleagues, or I can say just a few of you have already mentioned. So firms encourages organizations to integrate gender perspectives into risk management, which means considering how risk can overly impact a woman, and they should design strategies to mitigate these effects. For example, by promoting policies that support the work-life balance and women's well-being, it will help maintaining productivity even better, and even in the different market disruptions as well. I would further say advisory firms can design the training program that on one side empower not only women, but men also in different ways to be more resilient, adaptive, as well as, that will help them get into the next role of leadership. Though I strongly believe that men and women together in leadership roles bring diverse perspectives, usually it leads to improved organizational performance, innovation, and more inclusive workplace culture that will ultimately benefit organization and society. And further, I would say that firms like mine do also conduct tailored risk assessments for different industries, like for healthcare, technology sector. We use data, numbers, stats, case studies to predict how a situation will affect women differently than men. So they work with organizations to run simulation for gender disparities and its impact on operations. In a nutshell, I would say a gender-sensitive approach should be adopted by the organization, ensuring women's perspective are included in decision-making and risk mitigation. The gender equality will not only strengthen brand reputation of the company, but will also future-proof the organization for by fostering CSR activities. Yeah, thank you.
It's always great to hear how advisory firms can kind of act as that external mirror, right? Helping businesses see what's coming before it hits. And your point about agility really resonated. Organizations that don't build it into their DNA will struggle in today's climate. Inclusion is vital to innovation. So how would you say businesses can integrate diverse perspectives into their strategy to become more resilient and future ready?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a very good topic for me personally. I'll say diversity and inclusion are powerful drivers of innovation and resilience across industries. Why? It's because a diverse team brings mixed perspectives. As you know, we just heard that the diverse team will bring the different kind of innovative solutions. They are more likely to anticipate a wider range of unseen risks and respond with the flexible solution. So including people from different backgrounds helps organization understand what is the customer need and diverse market portfolio, what their preferences are. So it's better, for the organizations as well to get a more or bigger market stake. So such a culture encourages employees as well to voice their concerns and ideas. And when employees feel valued and included, they are more motivated and committed. So again, a new, I can say, strengthening the organization with the, more workforce. So with my 15 years of corporate experience, I'll say that the companies with diverse leadership teams perform better in terms of profitability as well. A mix of perspectives reduces blind spots in strategic planning and thus lowering the risk of strategy failure at any time. I mean, the ratio is little low. Inclusive companies are also better positioned to meet social responsibilities goals. So the stakeholders, customers, and societies do also have better trust, stronger trust, and that also help in lowering the attrition rate as well. So diversity and inclusion, again, it's a powerful drivers for any organization, for their innovation and for their growth. Thank you.
I love that. Diversity isn't just about representation. It's also about unlocking better thinking, and innovation thrives when there are multiple viewpoints in the room. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dora, coming to you. The development sector operates in some of the most complex and high-risk environments. What strategies do you use to enhance resilience and safeguard teams working in volatile regions?
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and it's been a really interesting conversation for me. And I've been in the development sector for over 25 years, so always the corporate perspective kind of enriches. So I don't know how much I will be able to contribute to this, but this has been a learning opportunity for me. So thank you, everybody, especially Ila, for inviting me to this. So, with humanitarian aid as well as development work, as you said, this is there is a lot of different sort of conflict and man-made disaster, natural disaster that you're responding to. And generally organizations do have security planning and crisis response management protocols in place. And most of us, when we are responding, we are provided with training and things like that. But I think what is important is you have those in place, and mostly these are non-negotiable. But at the same time, you really need to contextualize it, because you are in different situation, be it a conflict situation, or as I said, it could be an emergency response in terms of a post-cyclone or a disaster like that. I think for each of this, regular assessment, risk assessment is important, and it's something that you needs to be taken very seriously, because you are talking about your employees, you're talking about your asset and your reputation also. And therefore, a risk assessment, which has to be a regular kind of process that is guided by your organization's policies, is very important. With us, I think communication is also very important. Identifying communication channels so that you can identify the risks on time and you can seek advice on time, because you are talking about human beings here. And when we talk about communication, it's also with other external stakeholders. It's not just within the organization, but in the environment that you're working in, be it the local government or even other agencies who are working in the area. What we take very seriously is staff well-being, and which involves ensuring that they are have basic training in terms of security response mechanisms, but also that they are taking their regulated R&R, rest and recuperation as and when required, because mental health is very important. And in conflict zones, it's like in a leadership role, what is important is that you identify the need and then acknowledge it and encourage your team to take that needed risk, because once you're in those kind of situation, you tend to just go head on and kind of continue and not kind of think of your well-being. But then from a leadership perspective, this is important that we encourage that to happen. And I think finally, it's about continuous training. Training is important in our workspace, because there is always kind of emerging needs, and while something was relevant, say 5 years back, is no longer relevant. So keeping yourself updated in terms of the security landscape, both at the level, in the local level where you're operating, but also global security needs, and kind of should be recognized and kind of addressed as part of the team. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Thank you so much. I've done a lot of work in remote site management and spent quite a bit of time in conflict zones and also refugee camps across Africa. So I found what you said very insightful, particularly about practical strategies in high-risk areas. And these lessons apply far beyond just the humanitarian sector, right? And building resilience and development work isn't just operational, it's deeply, deeply human and community-led. So leading in humanitarian settings, though, demands a very unique blend of skills. What qualities would you say are essential for navigating crises while maintaining long-term impact?
I think communication is key. And more than communication, I think the ability to listen. Because generally what happens is we as development workers, aid workers, we go in thinking we have a solution to the problem, but that's not the case. In most cases, that's not the case, because you need to listen to the local needs, where and this is something that we have seen over the period of, I don't know, again, 25 odd years. I've been to areas where people believe that giving blankets in the middle of the month of June is a solution to a flood response, for example. So I think that kind of is very important, that people sort of listen to the needs before you really dive in and be the savior sort of approach. And at the same time, when you talk about sustainability, localization is key. We just go from somewhere to a place and we are trying to address a situation. But if you really want to make that difference, you have to build the capacities of the local communities to kind of the whole thing about resilience building. It's not it's not just about providing support. It's about helping them realize their own potential and kind of see them through the crisis, and then lead them to a more independent and kind of resilient life. And that involves kind of having those conversations at the local level. Look at the local governance that is there. Does it work? If it doesn't work, yes, we kind of work with it, but then it's not about creating new systems around those people, but just strengthening what is already there. And again, when I talk about communication, it's also communicating with, generally as aid agencies, we talk a lot about kind of collaboration, but we are also sometimes very territorial. And I wouldn't say that but we are all always collaborating. We kind of try to hold on to our niches and stuff like that. But it is very important that we collaborate, because these are situations where, you can always be doing stuff that is sometimes duplication, for example, so it is important that other agencies that are working in the area, there has to be strong communication around those people. When you talk about sustainability, there is no, and then, given, and especially now where we are, where there is deep funding cuts everywhere. It's not just about the US, it's other kind of governments who are now kind of looking at cuts in funding. So therefore, it is important that we are more prudent and judicious about how we use resources, and therefore, again, collaboration and communication would be key in the coming, and then localization, because those are also cost effective, and it's for another conversation altogether. But it is about those risks, like, where we don't want to be in a situation where you create more problems than address the existing problems. Thank you.
No, that's brilliant, Dora. And such a great reminder from you that leadership in this space is as much about compassionate listening as it is about the structure and the risk planning. And I feel you really highlighted how values-driven leadership is really essential to long-term impact in complex environments. Ela, just to check, how are we doing for time? Because I'm struggling to translate your agenda to my time. Do we have some time for some questions from the audience?
Yes, go ahead, please. Though we've already overshot the time, but I think let's give a chance to the
Couple
audience.
of minutes. Great.
Yeah.
So yeah, just before we close out this session, are there any questions from those watching? And if you do have a question, if you could raise your hand rather than jumping in, there's a small hand icon at the bottom of this window. Please use that. Please feel free to ask questions of our panelists. This is a great opportunity to engage with experts. Great. Bhaskar, am I saying that correctly? Please go ahead.
Thanks. I was listening to everyone, and just a question comes as a business leader. If there's so much of empirical evidence and research available, why do you still feel there is a lot of gap in what's happening and what possibly should happen?
So why do you feel
as business leaders, we look at consumer insights, we look at customer insights. Why the leaders are not looking at these insights, which are out there in plenty? Is there a fundamental thing that could help the leadership of various kinds? I'm not just talking about men or women, to take note of this and do something about it.
Okay, so essentially, why do leaders have a gap between insight and action? For all of our panelists, any of you particularly, is there someone who'd like to jump in to answer this?
Yeah, so I'll try to take it. I feel that, there is a conscious as well as unconscious bias. And whatever is a blind spot, like majorly on unconscious bias, if I have to talk about, I think Neuroscience Institute has a published a literature which says that you don't know actually, and you are still biased. And there are a kind of, the awareness and training not available as of now on that. So probably if we are able to mitigate that, there is a possibility that you are setting a cultural tone there. On conscious bias, of course, more awareness, much more rigid training, as well as the measurable outcomes. That is important. Because what I can say is that at the leadership level, at least the intent is there. However, the tools which required to know that, measurable outcome is there or not, there is a way to go. I hope I'm able to answer, Bhaskar.
Just as an add-on question. For the conscious bias or a blind spot, I understand a lot of blind spots which one carries. But if there's so much of research and empirical evidence floating around available, despite that, what is the reason you think that behavior doesn't change or hasn't changed yet? Is it just part of journey, or is it something else which is holding?
I mean, as I said, that we need more tools, of course, and see the measurable impact also of those tools, more awareness and much more robust trainings, which of course are there, but awareness is never enough, even if you do in whatever amount. So that's what I feel. But I know 100% answer could lie in some human behavior, psychology, as well as cultural aspects. So that's what I think we all can look at, definitely.
Yeah, so just adding to Latika's, it's actually the journey. That is what we are, facing from the long years and long time. So so if I say diversity, it's not a group of people with that is just a gender different. It can be, I can say age difference, background, education, experience. So there is a group of people, of course, that faces challenges, and that is due to the authority's success, and which is a little biased, if I'm not wrong, which is we all know, and this is what we have practiced, and this is what we want to really, go away.
Yeah, and what I also know is that for some people, it's really hard to relate that this actually brings a certain value. I mean, if you look at women in general, because they're often also the caretakers of their kids, they're not that, full-time available as men. So as a business, like especially commercial business, it's like, okay, how is this going to bring me value if I can also choose someone who's like full-time available, has more perceived commitments, can bring me faster results. Why would I pick the other over this? I know there are people struggling with that fact that they find it hard to relate to because, based on their own experience, or if you have less time to spend, how can you bring the same results or even better results? So I generally notice that when I talk to people, they see the reports, but they find it very hard to picture, like, is this actually the case? If I would now swap like someone else for a woman, do I see direct results? They want to see a change in numbers. And of course, that also takes some time and journey. And some people are not patient enough to reap the benefits.
I think, Victoria, you hit the nail right at the head. And I don't know, we might have biases, but within the family might be a lot of cases where your perception suddenly changes. I don't know if there is a way of crystallizing some of the research and things that the panel was talking about, how this can deliver and become personal to the recipient. Because this bias that you're talking about, that if you have lesser of a time available, but then you're not talking or thinking about the person in the diverse group also has an ambition to prove himself or herself, which makes a difference, and they compensate for it even more so. Is there a way to make that shout out loud? But yeah, thanks for answering. I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to also just very quickly add, I think often the gap between insight and action sometimes comes down to competing priorities. So, or even risk aversion or lack of accountability. Organizations may know what needs to be done, but if you don't have a clear owner, aligned incentives, or the cultural readiness for things, then insight can get stuck in that awareness stage. And bridging that gap means embedding insight into decision-making frameworks and empowering the right people to actually act on it. Thank you all so much for your very powerful insights and for sharing your experiences with us today. I know we're running out of time a little bit, so look, it's clear that building a future-proof organization requires inclusive leadership, sector-specific expertise, but also a willingness to adapt to constant change. To our audience, thank you for joining us. To our panelists, thank you so much for your incredible insights. Please, everyone, feel free to connect with the speakers on LinkedIn. And I'm going to hand back over to Ila. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mani, we'll take your question at the end if the time permits. Thank you we see your hand. I think it was such an insightful discussion, on building future-proof organizations and the role of resilience, innovation, security in shaping our workplaces. A big thank you to all the panelists who joined us from all across the world, sharing their expertise and the real-world strategies on navigating the emerging risks. Thank you for your time. So as we move on to continue our conversation for today, and we shift our focus now to an equally critical area, which is women's safety at workplace, policies, protection, and progress. And safety is, of course, is the foundation of empowerment, and organizations must integrate policies, protection measures, and progressive initiatives to create truly inclusive environments. So to explore further on this critical topic, we are having two very dynamic ladies with us. One is Megha, another is Shweta. They are joining us from different geographies, from different area of expertise. Let me just quickly introduce them to you. So Shweta is the Senior Director, GSOC and Business Continuity at Louis. She heads the team there, and she is, with her team, built the company's first GSOC. She's got more than a decade of experience in strategic and tactical intelligence. She's worked with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and she's studied from University of Baroda, and then she's got a certificate from Cornell University as well. So welcome, Shweta.
Thank you, Ela and the team. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. And let me just quickly introduce Megha before move on to the discussion. So Megha is SHRM SCP. She's a well-rounded, professional who brings a comprehensive understanding of legal frameworks, best practices, and strategies to foster a safe and inclusive work environment. She has been empaneled with Ministry of Women, Child Development, Government of India as a POSH trainer. And she is supported, workplaces in her capacity as external member, trainer, and advisor on the IC across different sectors. And she's conducted multiple awareness sessions into, all of these areas around POSH at multiple levels. So welcome, Megha.
Thank you so much, Ela. I would also like to thank EBG and SagePresage for getting all of us together and have a discussion on such an important topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Megha, maybe we can start with you. As a POSH trainer and DEI consultant, you work closely with organizations to build safe and inclusive workplaces. What are the most common gaps you observe in workplaces, in terms of safety policies, and how can organizations effectively bridge those gaps? Because you've been, involved in creating many of those policies yourself. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Ela, for the question. Like you said, I have supported numerous organizations in vetting and drafting their policies, especially with regards to prevention of sexual harassment. Now, the common gaps or the theme that, when a client submit their POSH policy to me for a review, we see common gaps. Most of the organization, what they do is they take out the policy from Google or just copy paste the POSH Act, and they think, that's it, because the acts ask them to draft a policy. A number of times, these policies are not clear, concise, or easy to follow. So as to address these gaps, that's where the POSH experts comes into picture. So of course, I totally agree. The policy should, have the mandatory components. It should define what is harassment, what are different types of sexual harassment, what is the reporting mechanism, whom should a complainant reach out to, how the investigation is carried out. That is very important. But along with that, it should also have certain clauses that actually applies to the employees, so that we can foster that culture where people, are supporting each other in creating a safe workplace. So for example, whenever, I'm guiding a client, I always say have some restrictive clauses, like what will happen to an employee when they engage in rumor mongering or probing, or, pressurize a subordinate to give us sensitive information about the case. Then an anti-retaliation clause. So we ensure that there's a complete support to the employees, any adverse consequences in case they report a case. Then some section, most of the organization have a separate whistleblower policy, but some section of whistleblower policy should be incorporated into the POSH policy just to ensure added layer of protection. Once the policy is drafted, it is not just that, it is shared with the employees during the annual training sessions or with the new joinees. It is very important that employers take concise decision, a positive decision to keep on reiterating. Not just a checkbox of doing it once a year, but continuously through some measures, keep on reiterating these policy to the employees. I think that's how we can solve this issue.
Wonderful. I think that's some very, good insights into the finer points that people usually miss out, especially how they can make the policy more holistic. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to Shweta. You've worked, both in India and US. You've grown up in India. Now you're working there. We all understand that security and compliance frameworks differ globally. So, what lessons from international risk management practices, are there which can be applied to enhance workplace safety policy in India and beyond?
So first of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you and your team. Thank you for that opportunity we had during the ASIS Women in Security Global Chapter, and me being kind of part of this amazing opportunity. Again, quickly, thank you for this opportunity to be alongside the amazing, incredible women leaders who shared their perspective. I feel like it's a less job for me right now on this kind of last, fireside chat, because you all have shared amazing things already and the most critical methods already. Talking about the, what's the kind of role, what are the international risk management practices? So I would say to begin with, I represent Lowe's companies. To those who do not know, Lowe's is one of the largest home improvement retailer in the world. And we do have operations and incredible technology transformation innovation coming out of our operations in India, based in Bengaluru. And that is why one of the key thing if you look at it from the international risk management standpoint, I think it's an increasing responsibility on organizations when we lead across different cultures. Whether it's India or whether it's any other countries, it is incredibly important to look at risk management, especially when we talk about the women's safety and security, understanding the dynamics in India. But then regardless where you're leading from, it's any country you're leading from, what are standards, what are you working? It's not just the policy, it goes beyond policy. It goes to understand the culture, the dynamics. Some of the panelists mentioned, what are some of the things that you bring to the table that are behind the scene? You definitely all across the globe, women in general, you do have a lot more responsibility when it comes to, you have, if you have little kids, if you have family, and regardless, what you bring to the work, that's added responsibility you to bring to work. Let's be aware of that. Mental health, it's amazing, thing to kind of keep in mind. That's regardless, women or men. When we work in the environment, that's one aspect to kind of keep in mind. But more from the organization standpoint, we need to be intentional about going, these are not just policies, it's responsibilities, it's priorities, and how as an organization, we form execution-focused strategies. I know Dora mentioned really amazing things, that there are policies, there are practices, but how good they are until we can really focus on the execution, until we get to the bottom of, we are providing awareness, are they being felt? I think half battle is won once our women associates are aware of the challenges, what are the risks? What are the risks that could that they could face? And one of these different techniques that multiple organizations, I'm sure that you were implementing, but around the emergency response training, the self-defense training, I think as organizations become more intentional, the HR, the different aspect of the risk management, we need to look at the risk from a broader standpoint. It's not the physical and the digital, it's risk from all fronts. It's a global dynamics, it's macroeconomics environment, what's really causing all of this issues, and what are the issues that could come to the surface. So we need to focus more on the scenario-based training, scenario-based awareness, and how to be more intentional about the execution of it, because that's where half the battle's won once your women associates know what to expect. know when to really activate their own resilience walls. And I think from a risk management standpoint, if we look at it just all across the globe, just be aware of the market you're operating in, because you may be working constantly with these different teams across the globe. And I think it's so important. A lot of times, this is the reality. A lot of times people may not know of the specific rules, the government policies we have. And I can talk about, where we operate from, right? It's the after hours support that we provide, the check-ins we provide. So I think it's so important, just as an organization, regardless where you're working from, that awareness is across the organization and not just particular to that region only.
Great. No, some very interesting insights, especially, touching on the sensitive areas like mental health, which is impacting one and all. How execution is the key, and how to kind of build in the scenario-based trainings to ensure the learning is holistic. So thank you for that. That brings me back to Megha. So Megha, many times, we notice that POSH and women's safety initiatives, they are just more of a checkbox exercise restricted to, say, a Women's Day or a once in a year kind of a thing, but it should rather be about building the culture within the organizations. So how can organizations ensure that these D&I initiatives and POSH compliances are not just checkbox exercises, but truly impactful in fostering, secure workplaces?
Great question, Ingla. And I think a lot of our panel members have already, stressed on how important it is that these are not just policy, but are executed on day-to-day basis. So especially when we talk about DEI, which is such an important subject as we speak about. So it is not a checkbox, it's not a policy, it is a culture of the organization. And it lies with the leadership on how they model their behavior, how they set the tone so that others should follow. So it is very important that the leadership should take the accountability and responsibility for that. A lot of time organizations, what they do is they put DEI as one of their core values, and they attach the core value to the performance management as well. So in the year end, when the employees are going through their reviews, they are also assessed on how they have reflected DEI throughout the year. So I think that is one of a big matrix so as to establish the culture of diversity, equality, and inclusion. So these are the implementation, mechanism, but it is very important that this should come out of the paper and be embedded in the overall culture in the organization. And for that, it is very important to understand the meaning of it. So diversity is very easy. I can hire equal number of male to women employees. I can hire different sections from LGBTQ, from persons with disability, and put them as a part of their workforce. But what is more important is the inclusion. Am I having safe workspaces? Am I providing them the say on the table? Not just because they are, they are people with equal voices and of opinion, not because of the section that they're representing. So that is the responsibilities that lies with the leadership, which lies with the managers, that they have to do. And a very important thing that we need to work on is the trainings. So not just DEI trainings, but the finer nuances, such as we talked about unconscious bias, understanding that, trainings on microaggressions. So these are the important points that the organization should be part of. What we can do is support, form a support group where people can come and talk about, so that they know that they are representing a group, and they are being heard of. So these are some things that the organization can do to support inclusion all over across the workspace.
Some very important takeaways here, Megha. So leadership should take the responsibility. True inclusion lies in empowerment and having support groups in place. I think very important points that you've talked about here. Okay, Shweta, coming back to you. In your view, what role do security leaders play in ensuring a safe and resilient workplace? And how can companies integrate security and risk management with the HR policies for holistic employee protection? I think more of an extension of what Megha has answered, but from a different perspective altogether.
Absolutely. Well, definitely Mega kind of nailed it with, what roles leaders play here in this game. I think leadership's, all about, it has to be top down. When you want to enhance any culture in an organization, it has to be a top down approach. So leaders have an increasing responsibility to ensure that they are forming the execution focused strategies. They are empowering the projects the way it needs to be empowered. I did hear from some of the panelists here said, we do have policies, we do have practices, but the reality is we say there is a collaboration, but it's that really a collaboration in a nature that we are really looking forward to. So it's leaders who need to empower the effective collaboration, leaders who need to really empower the people to thrive in the environment that they could bring their authentic selves to work. I think Megha nailed it with, it's then there are support groups, right? Then you kind of, count on and make sure that you have a place where you're being heard, because sometimes there are a lot of associates who are not, even though through empowerment, not yet confident, or yet still finding a way to be courageous enough to bring up the concerns or issues or any matters to the leadership. So again, there is a gap, and I think those support groups, when there is a support, there's a courage that's provided to bring the matter forward. I think those are the kind of some of the intentional steps leaders should do. And again, just kind of being human is at the kind of center of everything, right?
Sure. Circling back to you, Megha, in the benefit of time or the interest of time. So the rise of hybrid and remote workplaces, it has introduced new challenges in workplace harassment and safety, and how organizations should adapt to these posh policies to address virtual misconduct, cyber threats, which can be really tricky, is what we would like to know.
Interesting question again. So it will be 5 years of COVID and 5 years of time when the entire world was, introduced. The major part of the world was introduced to a remote working concept. And, I was supporting a lot of organization as external member during that time. And most of the complaints that we got, the maximum number of complaints, I would rather say, that we got was during the COVID phase. So people were realizing that, virtual harassment is possible. And first thing we realized, okay, this is becoming a issue and it is very important to handle it proactively. So first thing we did was to expand the scope of the policy. Now, POSH Act defines workplace very clearly, right? That it could be any place where you are by the virtue of your work. But it never defined virtual workspaces. So, but we realize now people are on emails, on chat box, on online meetings. So first and foremost, you have to, expand the scope of workplace within the policy and includes virtual setup there. And you also need to cover cyber threats such as, how would you address cyberbullying, online harassment, all that. Then within the policy as well, you have to define organization should define virtual misconduct. What would be the, how the employees need to maintain the decorum in the online setup? What could be the virtual threats that can be given? If you have, common WhatsApp, official WhatsApp group, official Teams group, you have to extend the same decorum or code of conduct in those groups as well. Then, Act also defines how we have to have the reporting mechanism in place, which is, meeting up of the committee, drafting, which was not possible in an online setup. So we also added a section on how we can conduct virtual inquiries. So that clearly defines, the invite should be sent 2 days prior before the meeting. All people who are involved in the investigation process should have Wi-Fi connectivity as well as other infrastructure support so that the investigation can go around seamlessly. Then, of course, the addressing of virtual misconduct was very important. So we did a lot of session trainings with employees to make them understand. Because I remember getting a case I'll share it with the group. So during the COVID, one of the female employee filed a posh complaint saying that, we were on a virtual meeting with the client. This lady was from the sales team, and my manager told me, quickly go and put on red lipstick. It will make you look more beautiful in front of the client. So she went ahead and filed a posh complaint, which was great actually on her part, because she realized it's a form of harassment. But when we spoke to the manager, for him it was a very general comment. He said, I was just doing it in the interest of the organization. So it's very important to sensitize employees so that they can set those boundaries. So I think those are and since we are still continuing with hybrid environment, virtual environment, it is very important to continue with these measures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a great example there, because it's so difficult to comprehend and understand, as to when to raise, a voice, raise a complaint, what people are really confused about it, and what are the sensitive areas, and how important it is to have the decorum and the guidelines in place to ensure that at least everybody is taken care of. So wonderful. And I think as we kind of more and more hear about the stories and use cases from POSH perspective, every day we enhance our learning. So it's a evolving cycle, I think. So coming back to you, Shweta, on a similar aspect, because as much the work from home and digital working is or remote working is relevant from the POSH perspective, I think security, cybersecurity, digital areas, it kind of brings in different kind of challenges altogether. So with these evolving risk areas like work from home, cyber risk, etc., what are some proactive risk mitigation strategies that companies should implement to enforce women's safety in physical as well as digital spaces?
So I will start with, first of all, when we talk about the security and the safety, I know that we talk about the cyber digital concerns, a lot of scams that are going on, a lot of messages, and then the safety concerns. But so important, more than the convergence of the cyber and the physical, when we look at the security and the safety, what we need to do, just as an industry, across the globe, is we need to look at the converged security strategies. That goes beyond digital, that goes beyond cyber. But then as we look into HR policies, we need to have a proactive mitigation strategies at all levels. We all are, one program. So whether it's, what are legal components, what's HR components, what is important from a communication standpoint to associates when we come to this table, and when we are looking at safety and security matters, it needs to be looked at all forms of risks, not just the physical and cyber risks. All forms of risk comes from technology, it comes from compliance, it may come from HR. We all have our own risks. I think when we look at a big table, that's where we need to be proactive, predictive, and prescriptive about the threats, the risks, the events we are observing. And it's not to be reacting to what's just happening, but also to be able to have a capacity in terms of intelligence, that's coming from all areas, whether it's coming from physical work, whether it's coming from cyber, whether it's coming from supply chain, technology. We need to make sure that we are aware of what can potentially happen in the future too. So we do not always have to react. It's not about proactive reaction anymore. It's about proactive resilience. And that's where we all need to, as a companies, we need to think about having convergence security methods and strategies. So from safety security, but then in terms of how do we implement it? And one of the, I can say I'm incredibly proud to really represent an organization, especially here in Laos, India, where everything is kind of not being looked at the policy. It's a calling, it's a responsibility in being intentional, whether it's our facilities team, providing a safe and a clean facilities, whether it's, our security teams really merging with HR on not just at the policy level, but how do we go beyond those trainings, the evacuation drills, the self-defense trainings, the first aid trainings. Every little aspect of the work is being looked upon by all these different teams. It's not just the security's job, it's security leading it, but then there's facility, there's HR, everybody coming together and really taking the responsibility of saying, how do we provide this very safe environment to our women associate? But not only that, I do hear this business continuity hat too. That it's done, it's sustained operation too. It's not a once, this is being done and then we forget about it, but there's a continuity of this efforts. How do we sustain what we promised to say we are going to provide this safe and a secure environment? Whether, this women associates go home and then there's safety check-ins and that they've arrived at their destination. How does that entire transportation management is being monitored as an organization? What tools and technology you're using? I think it's again being very, very, very intentional about having the best strategy, best tools, and best technologies that you're able to continue delivering to ensure the safety and security of women associates. Like I said, I'm incredibly proud to speak about this because I visited our Bengaluru office multiple times and I've seen it in action, and it's incredible work in terms of kind of setting a benchmark for the rest of the industry. So this is something, like I said, I'm hoping and praying that everybody, if not yet, starts to meet.
Sure. And I think safety and security culture are so very specific to each organization. The maturity level varies, the culture varies. So we totally understand that. Now, there's so much that workplaces can do, organizations can do. But just, I think a common question to both you and Megha is, there's a lot a person can do in individual capacity also. So what advice would you give to women professionals about protecting themselves at work and beyond, and advocating for stronger safety policies within the organizations?
Shweta, would you like to go first?
Oh, I can for sure. I think, yes, this is the topic where it all kind of comes back to the, topic that we're all, so close to our heart, right? I think it's all about breaking those boundaries first. As a women, we, I've observed and I talk to a lot of other, women associates, leaders, that we all have our own boundaries sometimes that, this imposter syndrome that it's hard to break. I think having mentors, being resilient, being courageous, owning your story, you own your story, nobody else does, and being able to kind of break those boundaries and go out and be courageous enough to talk about the matters that matters to you, and to your safety and security, and to your family, and in terms of anything that could drive you, whether it's your family, whether your kids, whether it's your status, whether it's money, whatever that driving force is, own it and achieve it and go after it. Do not hesitate to bring up your questions, concerns, the topics that matter to you. But sometimes we have a voice, we're just so afraid to bring it up front, thinking that, is that voice important enough? What if it's not? Am I going to be judged? I think anything further, I think once we break these boundaries, then there's so much we can do in terms of, I think one of the panelists, Latika, said we're transformational. We are truly transformational. So we just need to break those internal boundaries first before we get to that table and be transformational.
Sure. Over to you, Megha.
No, I totally agree with Shweta. And from my side, I think one rule I have, I personally, use it or apply to myself is, firstly, protect yourself before you go ahead and push those boundaries. So we as women, we have sixth sense. So please trust your instincts. Our body give us signals when something is not okay, when something is uncomfortable, or something is not secure. So please listen to yourself and act accordingly. Like Shweta said, it's very important to set boundaries. The person will provide me with a respectful workplace, a safe workplace, when I set what is respectful and safe for me. It's a very subjective matter, but it is very important that we set our boundaries ourselves. Then third is that I always share in my session for all the women is, please, if you think you're going through something, please document the incidents. When a lot of complaints which comes to us, we have to let go a lot of them because there's no, uh, you know, uh, there's no evidence that we can use. Okay. So if you think something is not right, any email, any message, any photograph, please document it. Please keep it safe. That will really help you in case you choose to file complaint. Then the next is that we should know our rights and we should be informed about it. A lot of time employees are not very comfortable, with going to the HR or going to the internal committee. But it is very important that you should know that government also has a, different ways. You can go to a She-Box portal, which is designed by Ministry of Child and Women Development. Then, you have other mechanism like a local committee. So you can go and file a complaint there. And as per the Indian law, you will be provided with the additional layer of security there would in case there's something happens. And last but not the least, we've talked about it throughout the session. Please prioritize your self-care. We've talked about mental health. We'll talk about stress. We've talked about burnout. So it's very important that we take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally. So that well-being is very important. So yeah, those are the points from my side.
Great. I think two of you have captured some incredible points here. I think some of them very important one as well. I'd just like to add one to that, which is situational awareness. I always preach that to all the ladies that you should be aware situationally, and it should be a way of life, not just at work but beyond that. Because if you keep eyes open, your senses open, when you are going anywhere and you're vigilant, I think that really protects you from a lot of things to happen. So some very interesting key takeaways, I think, from this discussion around workplace safety, how it can be embedded into the culture within the organizations, POSH compliance, how it is evolving really, trainings, how essential they are, on a regular basis and not just a tick in the box kind of a thing. Cyber safety is as much or part of workplace safety now. And a lot of other aspects around travel safety which are also overlooked. So workplace safety is not just about compliance requirement. It's a fundamental pillar of a thriving and inclusive workplace. I think today's discussion really emphasized the need for strong policies, leadership accountability, cross-functional collaborations to ensure safe and respectful workplaces for all. If there are any questions, we can just take up quickly for the speakers for this panel, and then we can move on to the concluding remarks. Yeah, Rhythm, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question for Shweta or Megha, whosoever can take. So I have been handling compliance and operations in my previous organization, and I have seen, as you have said, that some of the organizations, when it comes to a small organization, they have fewer people. They have, I just want to know one simple question. Who's the point of contact, or who is solely responsible for ensuring the policies are in place, the trainings are being taken care of, compliances are being, it's being compliant, abided by the laws. So who, HR or the compliance person? So there is a lot of confusion, and because of this confusion, what happens? Time adherence is not being done for the trainings. This one question. Now adding to the second question, there was one of the complaints which I came across, but what happened? It didn't raise far. It settled in between because small organization, there was no women on board, and there was no external panel. There was the advocates, the company's advocates that were leading this. So there was a complaint raised by one of the senior advisor, who was, sometimes he was sitting across a lady and, some weird comments or maybe some touch. So she raised a complaint. According to him, it was a fatherly touch, but actually, according to her, it was not. So again, maybe a mindset. Now, but it conducted a small discussion and apologized, and then it was over. So my question is, who is solely responsible for ensuring that we are adhering the laws or we are abiding the laws? That's it. Thanks.
I would say not so much into the kind of weeds in terms of responsibilities, but I can talk about, the first part of your mention. That's, who leads it and who executed it. It is the collaboration, right? It is, it's those who are, above the HR compliance, right? It's the leadership in general. So it's a collaborated effort. It's HR policies, but who's executing it? If it's a security and safety and security matters, the security teams, again, in collaboration with, because you need the policy, you need that compliance aspect to it. But then when you execute the training, who's going to execute it? Yes, security teams may be in close partnership with facility teams in terms of what are the facility related securities we're providing. So again, it's a coordinated effort, and it has to be a kind of top down approach from overall leadership in terms of that partnership. Those barriers has to break. If there are silos, those has to be broken.
Right, I agree with Shweta. And Rhythm, I totally understand. I worked with different clients where they've come, we are a lean team, we are a very small team. So who should be responsible for what? I always say compliance are the responsibility of the employer. All right. So whether it's a sole proprietary or a board run organization, it's the top to down approach. The top management should clarify, like Shweta said, that HR are the custodians of the policy. They can give you a subject matter expert. It's just that, but the implementation and making sure the compliance are being met, that's the sole responsibility of the employer. And if there's a confusion, it's the duty of the employer to clarify the role and the responsibility, right? At the end, like Shweta said, it's a collaborative effort. We have to ensure that the compliance are being met by the organization. So the management should clarify whom it should liaise with. Okay, I understand in small organizations, sometimes you don't have a compliance teams as well.
Yeah.
Right? You are, relying on a third-party advisors who can also give you advice on it. But the implementation, submission, trainings, the bare minimum, that's the employer responsibility, and employer should define who should be the responsible party within the organization for it. Now, coming to your second question, if I get it right, you said that there was just one female in the organization who think the touch was inappropriate, and there was no formal mechanism. Can you repeat the case?
There was, one person, external person, not the internal, but it applies to everyone as far as I know, right? So it was the case that depends that it was according to the person that he was very, very friendly, but the complaint was received from many, but not in general. So she took the step and told that, no, I'm not comfortable with it. I want to raise a complaint. So that's how it started.
And she raised it with the management of the organization.
Yes, she discussed it with the senior people and the management, obviously the top, the managing directors and the CEO.
Okay.
And the person who was taking care of the squash.
Okay. So see, POSH Act is very clear. It says, irrespective of the gender, be it male or female, any organization with 10 or more employees should have an internal committee who should look after such cases. It also talks about if you have any visitor at the workplace, they will come under the ambit of the act, and they are free to, file a complaint with the IC of the organization. She couldn't have filed a complaint with the internal committee of her own organization because they don't have a jurisdiction over someone whom the employee has gone for a visit. So it's very important to file. It's important to file the complaint with the IC of the perpetrator or the respondent, as we call in the act. If the person is not satisfied with the resolution, she could have filed an appeal with the local committee. So if there are only male members and the organization does not have a female member who should be part of the IC, then the case should go to the local committee, which is, formed by the district officer. So every organization, wherever the registered address is, they come, they come under the ambit of the local committee, which is formed by the district officer of the district where the company is registered. So the person should have gone and filed a complaint over there, and they could have looked into the matter.
But that didn't come at all. We know that there was a local committee, but that didn't come into picture because practically no one does that, to be very honest.
Yeah, but those are the mechanism available.
Yeah, yes, truly.
And if it's like something that she's still uncomfortable with, we can move beyond the POSH Act, and she could have filed a complaint under the Indian Penal Code, or now we call it BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita.
But if it's settled mutually, sorry to interrupt, but if it's settled mutually, so then I think nothing is
no,
right?
Nothing. If it's been, if it has been settled through conciliation, then no further action is required.
But I think its POSH is important and relevant for smaller organizations also.
Absolutely. Right? It applies not just to the organization, but to the RWE, so Resident Welfare Association, to hospitals, to malls, everywhere, to anywhere where people are going for work. POSH Act applies there.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you, Nika. Thank you, Shweta.
Great, thank you. So with this, we come to the end of this segment and also the event. And before concluding, I would like to invite EBG for a vote of thanks, please.
Yeah, I will take, sorry. I would like to introduce myself. So I am handling the Secretariat of EBG Federation. And I would like to thank on behalf of EBG team. I would like to express sincere gratitude and appreciation to everyone who made this session super interesting. I am truly inspired by the women out here. And I think you are the role model for all the youngsters, all the women's, not for the women's, I mean for everyone, because we can manage home, we can manage office, we can manage everyone. So thank you again for your wonderful insights you brought on all the aspects on the topics, risk compliances, POSH, cybersecurity. I mean, we at the EBG Federation, we are 25 years, over 25 years of excellence of the company. And we ourselves have 130 members across. We have members, European and non-members. We also focus on cybersecurity. We conduct events on risk and compliances and cybersecurity. Ila has been a part of that. So, I mean, I'll be very happy to invite you people on the specific the events we can plan, and happy to collaborate further. And apart from that, last not the least, thank you to all the speakers. I know it's a delay in time, so I won't be taking much of time, but thank you, Ila. Special thanks to you for collaborating with us and inviting us, and so that we are able to meet all the speakers out there. And again, not last, again, thank you to our esteemed members, our team members, everyone, and the participants out here for being so patient and having raised questions. And I think that it was a wonderful event and everyone enjoyed. Thank you again, and wishing you all the wonderful evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rhythm, for your comments. So as we conclude the event today, I think today's discussions have really reinforced the future of risk management, security, business resilience is being shaped by emerging technologies, strategic foresights, agility, diverse leaderships, and women are truly in the forefront of this transformation, driving innovation, creating safe, secure, stronger workplaces and sustainable workplaces as well. So let's take these insights and turn them into action, and together we can build a future-proof, resilient, equitable world together. I would like to thank all the speakers, panelists, partners, attendees, EBG especially, for making this discussion so insightful and so impactful, really. So let's continue our conversation and work towards creating a more resilient workplace together. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you till we meet next year.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Ila. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.